on things that God gives me in terms of stuff to discuss that given day. And this morning, for whatever reason, university stuff came up. I started thinking about colleges and all the money that we spend. Let's see, the link goes to the Ten Commandments. Oh, you know what? I think I gave y'all the wrong link. See, that's why y'all got to check me. Y'all got to fix me. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me for that. Let me fix that right now. I'm going to grab the link and send you the right link because I sent you the wrong one. How about that? How about that for I'm looking like Joe Biden right now. All right, so all right, so let me I'll give you guys a second to go hit that link and sign up. Thank you for telling me that. See, what would I do without you? I need y'all to correct me. But anyway, when I say looking like Joe Biden, it's not like Trump is a spring chicken either. So we got these old guys running the country. So hopefully they're taking their medication, eating their Wheaties. All right, so okay, so did everybody get the link? So yeah, so what Alicia and I are gonna do is we call it the Love and Money Lab or basically Love and Bank Accounts. That's what the word LAB kind of came out to. We just thought that would be kind of cool to call it that. And effectively, it's all about how you can blend your finances in a way that really benefits you. Because if you do it right, your relationships can be an economic accelerator. This isn't a really important consciousness exercise. Is really to think about your relationships. If you did the 30 days to financial consciousness that we did in the month of January, which by the way, you can go to drboyceelevate.com if you want to go through that training. It's not too late. You'll find that one of the things that we did meditate on and sort of reflect on in our consciousness journal is our relationships and how our money affects our relationships and how our relationships affect our money. I've seen 1,000. When I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking years ago, when I was on the faculty of Syracuse, I saw a lot of people that really, really had a tough time in their lives because something was going on financially as it pertains to just friendships, relationships, etc. What are some examples? Well, in this week, for example, I had a guy that reached out that wanted to do business with me, and I wanted to do business with him because he seemed like a nice guy. Well, then somebody reaches out to me and they said, "Well, you know, he's got a criminal record and he was convicted on a kind of fraud, and it was a financial fraud." And I was like, "Oh man, I can't." You know, I like him. I just I can't connect to that because that's gonna, that could go bad. And so that's an example that came from experience, right? Because 10 years ago, I probably would have said, you know what, it's okay. You know, a lot of black people go to prison. It's not right. And, they deserve a second chance. But with financial fraud, I can't take a chance like that because I've spent 15 years building trust. And, and when the trust has been jeopardized, it's because somebody was allowed to get close who wasn't necessarily doing the right thing. And again, it's nothing against anybody who has a record. I mean, it kind of sucks because in the black community, so many of our people have dealt with the system, and but the reality is that relationships matter. Who you're associated with does matter, and so that's one example. Another example is I know guys who can't do anything in their lives money wise because of things like child support. Child support's just kicking their butt, throw them under the bus. And a lot of that's because if you circle back and go back 10 years before that moment where the guy is crying and devastated because he can't pay the child support, he's trying to build a family, he doesn't have enough money to do that. Well, maybe earlier in his life, he was a ladies' man, right? And he had many relationships with many ladies that, told him he was cute, and he didn't understand that there are risks that come with that. Again, I'm in Las Vegas, and I met a lady who is on the radio, and she calls herself Nick at Night, and she's a very nice lady, and she knows Michael Baisden, and I know Michael Baisden, and she was basically paid by the L.A. Raiders or Oakland Raiders, or I guess the Las Vegas Raiders now. What am I saying? I'm sounding like an old man here. But by the Las Vegas Raiders, they paid her to come in and just talk to the athletes about Vegas and relationships. And she said this city will chew you up and spit you out. And the biggest things that end up destroying the wealth of men typically, and women have their own vices as well, tend to be sex, drugs, alcohol, and gambling. Sex, drugs, alcohol, and gambling. Those four things, if not done in moderation, can destroy everything that you have going on economically. And in fact, actually, I've even spoken publicly and stated that I think that the NFL is absolutely egregious by allowing legalized gambling to be so closely connected to their sport. I think that that's going to have a lot of casualties. A lot of families are going to get destroyed. A lot of lives are going to get destroyed. So anyway, let's talk about college for a minute in the first part of our reflection, and we're gonna go back into the book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, in a moment. But I want to start by talking about college and basically what I observed in my many years as a college professor. I taught at Syracuse University, Indiana University, the University of Kentucky, the Ohio State University. I also taught in China. I taught in Europe, and my wife did a sabbatical in Guyana. So I got a chance to see university systems around the world. So I got a chance to really understand all the ups and downs of every kind of system, and just the pros and the cons of each. And so here's what I wanted to share with you guys about college, okay? So one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is how deeply embedded your educational process is with your economic outcomes. Um, you know, it's one of those things where if you don't think about this carefully, it will ruin you. It'll put you in a worse spot than you were when you started. Um, and basically, it's one of those things that requires a little bit of thought, right? Because some people would just say college is a scam and that's it. And I'm not going to disagree with that statement entirely, because it can be a scam, absolutely. But is it always a scam? No, it's not. College can be. It's one of those things where it is. It can be scam like, in the sense that you're paying an incredibly high price to learn things that you could probably learn other places for free. Like, for example, a lot of you that are enrolled in this class, maybe you're paying, 20 or $30 a month or something like that. This is one of the lower cost programs in the Black Business School, but it was because I really wanted to do this every day with you all. And I'm a college professor, just like I was when I was at Syracuse, where my students pay $71,000 a year. And so what I would say is that with college, and somebody asked me to sort of sort this out, and it really came up because at Harvard there was, you may have heard about this. They're teaching a class on Taylor Swift, and I put it on Twitter, and I kind of said, this is fascinating that people are going into debt for something like this. I think that's so interesting. And some people use that to sort of double down on the statement that that college is a scam. I don't think college is a scam. I think that it can be. And so here are a couple of things I observed when I spent years teaching on college campuses. And this is something important for you to understand as you fit education into your economic priorities. Everybody should get educated. It's just a matter of choosing how you're going to do it. So the first thing I would say is that the cost of tuition has gotten way too high. It used to be a time where college didn't cost so much money that it would leave you broke. Now college has gotten to the point where it's just ridiculously expensive, and a lot of people get hurt by that. In fact, the average Black college graduate, half of all Black college graduates, default on their student loans, which destroys their credit and hurts their ability to build wealth. So it's like a cancer. It doesn't just harm you in the present, it harms you in the future. It doesn't just, it's like being in a car where they not only pushed you back a mile in the race, but they also flatten your tires. So not only are you further behind, but you also can't go as fast as you could before, because somebody stole your money, put you a mile behind in the race, and they cut your tires in the process. So your ability to even make up the gap that's been created is minimal, right? So you're not just in a hole from the student loan debt, you're in a bigger hole because your future ends up sort of being affected by this, right? So anyway, so give me one second. Oh, oh, sorry, allergies. Okay. So the cost is way too high. Also, so student loan debt has become a significant problem. Thank you, Veronica. And that's a real concern. The other thing I noticed about college is that you have to really be conscious. Again, there's that word consciousness. Okay, so you want to be conscious about what you study when you go to college. All of our kids are going to go to college, but I think that when you think about education, it's very important that you don't do it in a programmatic kind of way, in a way where you just follow along behind someone else's rules or simply do what somebody told you to do. College is a process where it can be wonderful for you if you're learning the right things that help you achieve the right goals. So if you're trying to become a dentist, well, you can't become a dentist unless you go to college. And dentists do very well, and dentists can typically pay back their student loans. That's not a problem. But if you go to college and you're learning, you're taking classes on, like I said, they have the class on Taylor Swift. Um, I mean, unless you're going into the music industry and you have a plan on how that's going to help go make you a couple $1 million, I don't really know the economic benefit of spending all that money taking a class on Taylor Swift. And in college, you have a lot of students that think that because they were on this campus for 4 years and because they got a piece of paper, that that's going to impact their economic outcomes. And that's just simply not true. I've been both a college professor and I've been an employer. I've been employing people for a really long time. And I have never really cared if someone had that piece of paper when they came to apply for a job with me. I don't care. I don't ask. I don't know. If you ask me about all my team members, did they go to college? I really don't know now that I'm thinking about it. I think one of them happened to tell me, but it wasn't because I asked. It was because it came up in conversation. All I pay attention to is, can you do your job? Can you help us achieve our goal? Can you help us get things done? So if you want to get the proper education, get an education that helps you, either you get things done or helps your clients to get things done. And to me, your boss is a client. That's basically someone for whom you're working on their behalf in exchange for economic compensation. So your boss is basically just another client, just like if you ran a consulting firm. And the best consulting firms are the ones who help their clients get results. So the best education you can get is the education that helps either you or your client get the result that they're seeking. If you cannot do that, then that education was a waste of money and a waste of time. It's like having a big fat gun and you pointed the gun at the wrong target and you shot 55,000 bullets and you paid money for those bullets, but it doesn't matter because you shot in the air. You shot the gun in the wrong direction. Who cares? Who cares how many times you shot the gun? You didn't achieve the goal, right? The other thing about college that is interesting too is that there is a culture. Just like in the book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, I mentioned to you all economic culture, and we talk about culture extensively. And so just like we have a culture here, our culture right now in this space is Black culture. Our culture is intelligent Black culture. It is wealth building culture, right? It's hard. Maybe it's hustle culture, hard working culture. We get up every morning and we do this every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and that's our culture that we have in this space. Well, the same way we have a culture right here, there is a culture on college campuses. And I didn't pick up on this until I've been teaching on college campuses for a long time. It took me many years to understand this. But basically, in campus culture, a couple things are true. For most college campuses, if you are a Democrat or a liberal, then your ideas are readily accepted. If you're not liberal or progressive or Democrat, then your ideas are going to be typically rejected. You're going to get a hard time. I've seen college campuses that would bring on the Democratic speakers and liberal speakers and let them do whatever they want to do, but then they would shun and shame and ban conservative speakers. I always thought that was wrong. I'm not a liberal or a conservative. I like to listen to all the ideas. I like to try to understand where everybody's coming from. Not everybody thinks that way, and I think that just that idea of telling certain people that they can't talk, it creates a natural bias. So what happens is, in terms of being Black, I've seen Black people go off to college campuses and get an indoctrination into a set of liberal ideas that sometimes can be in contrast to things they might have learned from the Black community or maybe learned from their grandparents who went through segregation, who went through Jim Crow, who are teaching them equally important values about how to survive as a Black person. So one of the things that one of my pet peeves is when I see some kid from the South go off to like Columbia University and then come back to Alabama thinking that he knows more than his grandfather does, or thinking he automatically knows more than his grandmother. I'm not saying that you can't add value to the family culture, but when you sort of come back with this arrogance, this idea that somehow because I've been educated by white folks, I am now superior to working class, hardworking people who've been able to sustain families for many, many decades, who've gone through far more than I've gone through. Somehow that I'm superior to them and that they can't teach me nothing. It's my job to always teach them and to help, almost looking at them. You know what I'm talking about, where you look at them almost like they're too old fashioned and they need to be educated on certain things. That's not really true. Sometimes you think things are better because they're different, or we think they're better because they're new. But I would argue that when you talk about economics and culture, some of your best ideas are the old ideas. Some of your best ideas, and it was interesting because I had a person who if y'all gonna want to follow me on Twitter, feel free to follow me on Twitter. It's really fun. Just be ready because I might say anything on any given day because it's all a matter of what God just puts in my brain. Um, and there were and I think I said something about um the conservatives making these racist comments, and I said that's not going to be good for them. And someone said, well, conservative means you're trying to conserve America, and you should know better than that because conserving America means you're conserving racism. And I said, actually, I don't think that that's what it always means. I think for some people, it could mean that. For some people, it could mean we want to go back to the 1930s when black people couldn't do anything, significant in America in white society. I don't feel that way. The way I feel is that there are some traditions in the black community that should be conserved. There are some traditions, some approaches, some beliefs. Give me a yes if you're following what I'm saying here. There are some beliefs in the black community that that if we did those things today, we'd be in a much better place than we are right now. How about things like, I don't know, family sticking together, or people staying married, or black people not killing black people, like, or or black people building businesses, right? Like, how are you going to tell me that every single thing that anybody would want to conserve is automatically bad and that new stuff is always better? I don't believe that. I don't think that's a very thoughtful perspective. I don't think you're thinking carefully when you believe automatically by default that just because something's new, that makes it better. I mean, just a couple years ago, it was a new thing that a man could decide he wanted to be a woman and then go compete in a woman's sport. And they even did that. I think they even did that in kickboxing. A man, claim that he was a woman, and he was kickboxing, and he almost killed one of the women in the ring. He crushed her skull. Right. So again, I don't know how you guys feel about that. I'm not judging one way or the other. I'm not telling you to believe what I believe at all. But what I am saying is that not everything that's new is always better. Sometimes new is worse than what you had before. So I would encourage you, just as a consciousness exercise, to just embrace the idea of thinking for yourself. Remember, consciousness is a type of awareness. Awareness means you're looking around and you're questioning things. You're looking at things. I did an interview uh, this week actually on this podcast. It's called the Digital Social Hour or something. And it's really weird. It's this 26-year-old white kid who has 11 million Instagram followers on his platform. 11 million. And he makes probably, I'm gonna guess, maybe $5 to $10 million a year just doing all this stuff with this podcast. And he was a nice guy, very humble, and I talked to him for a minute. And because for whatever reason he wanted to interview me and my wife, and about love and money and stuff like that, and I was happy to do it. And one thing that he and I both had in common is that we neither one of us really fit into the school system. Neither one of us fit into public schools. And I said, I think I know why. I'm exactly twice your age. He was 26, I'm 52. But I said, I think I know exactly why you and I both had terrible grades. We were always in detention. They told us we had ADHD, and they wanted to put us on medication. And he said, why? I said, because there's something about when the brain is alive, it makes you question everything. And when you start questioning things, you don't fit into systems. Systems don't do well with people who think for themselves. Systems tend to do well for people who follow the rules. Most education in America, unfortunately, is really pretty much a training on how to sit down and shut up and do what you're told. That's what it is. That's what it becomes. If you look at studies on high school valedictorians and people that make straight A's, they're not people that go off and make $1 billion and change the world. They're people that get nice jobs. They get good jobs because they know how to do their job. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are people that should do their job. And if your job is doing right by you, then you should keep that job. What I'm here to say is I'm not here to tell you to quit your job. I've never went around just telling people that they have to quit their jobs. I just want you to be financially secure. And financial security can come with a job. You can have a job and be financially secure, but you can't be financially secure if all your security is built on that job. Do you understand? A lot of people think that the riskiest thing a person can do financially is to become an entrepreneur. That's not always the riskiest thing. It's not by default. I mean, sure, there's extra risk. There's a different kind of risk, but it's not. That's not the riskiest thing you could do in many cases. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who have 6 or 7 streams of income. Their risk is lower than a person who is depending on one stream of income. I mean, if you are a single parent with one job, living paycheck to paycheck, you're living on the edge. And I'm not telling you to feel bad. I'm just telling you to become conscious of the situation and assess the risk and see if there's a way to minimize that. If you are a single parent with one job, with one income, living paycheck to paycheck, that's a very risky position to be in. Now, what I want to do is over time introduce you to methods and mechanisms that will help you reduce that risk. Um, I did this training called The Secrets of Black Financial Security, and I gotta go find it. And I think and what I did was it was sort of let me see if I can Google it, and I'll share the link. 'Cause I do all kinds of stuff. See, but yeah, and if you can't find it, if I can't find it, then why don't you email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, and I think you'll like it because literally I said, what does it look like to be financially secure? Like, what does financial security look like in general? Like, how do we even know that we're secure? Because that's the other funny thing too, is that financial security is one of those things where here we go. I'm giving you guys the link in the chat. Financial security is one of these things where it's like you think you're secure until something happens. And then you realize you weren't secure in the first place. So it leads you to go back in time and say, man, I never saw this coming. I thought I was ready. I thought I was in good shape. I had a good job. I was making good money. Wait a minute. What happened here? Right. So ultimately, I want you to kind of know some of the elements, some of the symptoms, almost like a doctor diagnosing a patient or an illness. Just know what the symptoms are to know that you are financially insecure, and then know how to find the symptoms of being financially secure. It's like banks. Banks want to test the financial security of other banks, or regulators have to test the financial security of banks. How do they know if a bank is financially secure? Well, they do these things called a stress test. The stress test is where they say, well, what would happen if 50% of your customers came and wanted to pull their money out right away? What would happen if the stock market suddenly collapsed and all your assets went down in value? What would happen if the real estate market went south? Right? They do that stress test, right? So a lot of us don't even, we're never even, not only do people not do it, but they're not even trained to do it. We're not trained to do it. And what is unfortunate is I think we live in this world where they lull you to sleep. They tell you everything's okay. They want you to be comfortable. They want you to sit there and sit still and believe that everything's all right. And then, bam, you get broadsided, hit upside the head, and you're traumatized and devastated and shocked. It's almost like being in a relationship where you think that you are madly in love and everything's fine and that your sweetie's going to be there forever, and then out of the blue you just find out that it's not like that. A lot of us have probably gone through that. I know I've gone through it. I mean, it traumatized me, right? So I think the same thing is true when you talk about your financial relationships. Now, one thing I want to mention also is if you all, I'm about to pull up the slides in a second, but if you all have not picked up the study guide and the book for the class, the book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, and the study guide is drboycebooks.com, or it's all at drboycebooks.com. So feel free to go take a look at that. And there's actually a bundle somewhere inside the store. I'm trying to see if I can find the link where you can actually get the book, the study guide, and then actually even if you want a copy of Powernomics from Dr. Claude Anderson, you can actually get this with this bundle. So what I'm going to do is actually share that link in case you haven't done that yet, and feel free to go grab that. And so it would come with my book, Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics, as well as the study guide and stuff like that. And also if you really, again, I'm a big believer that if this is stuff that really sits next to your heart, I want to encourage you to be a teacher too. I would like now. Let's see. Taquana says my study guide still hasn't arrived. Email support at theblackbusinessschool.com. If you ordered it within the last week, it probably isn't going to be there. I know Anna sends everything out though when the orders come in. So let's let's make sure your order has been sent out. So email support at theblackbusinessschool.com and they can take care of you. They can make sure that you are covered. Okay, so let's